Hey everyone, so in the last video we ended up putting on the pulleys and switching around some of the pulleys. So if you didn't see that video, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link up here that you guys can check out. But on this video, we're going to be installing the actual supercharger finally. So this comes with a series of brackets and whatnot that you have to get ready. So it has all this crazy bracketry and spacers and bolts, and this stuff you're supposed to assemble here all loose. So you guys can see this is what it consists of. So all these spacers and different size bolts and washers, you have to get all that situated. So it's a bit of a puzzle. So I just went ahead and figured it out. For me to try to figure this out on camera would have been pretty funny or hilarious. Actually figuring which one goes where and measuring. So I got that all situated. So this should technically be ready to lift up and put over there. Just to recap, we have a series of videos on this build if you guys are just stopping in for the first time. So on one we tackled the cooling system, the crank pin, the intercooler that's already installed. There's all separate videos for every aspect of this install, and we're almost ready. Another one was for the fuel injectors, another one was for the tune and the computer. We got it all, but it looks like at this point in this stage and this episode we should be ready to get that on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and prop that up and we should be able to get in there. So I got my 13mm handy. Most of those bolts on that bracket is 13mm, and I'm gonna attempt to lift this up and see if I can get it hanging. So I managed to get the thing hanging here, at least by itself. It is quite, I don't even want to call it heavy, it's just awkward, and while you're trying to put a bunch of bolts in. Again, I don't know if this comes assembled in a new kit. I haven't seen a new kit to compare to or installed one, but this used kit with this hanging on it and the plate, it is a little bit awkward. But we got it in, and these are all the little brackets that you have to contend with. So you have to try to there's some bolts that thread just into this sub bracket, and then ones that go straight through it, and then there's that top one you can see that just does its own thing and it holds a sub bracket to there. So a lot of different stuff, but as far as a conclusion, you have these two bolts, you got about 4 bolts, and then a 5th one on the bottom that you have to contend with through the faceplate, and then one by itself on the back there. So whatever that adds up to, I guess 2, 4, 5, 6 bolts holding this thing to the block. So we're gonna go ahead and get those tightened down. They're a combination of 13 mils, and I think this one's a 16. Don't quote me on the bottom one. I think it's either 16 or 17mm head bolt, but we'll get all these tightened down and we'll move on to the next step. So that honestly wasn't quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. It was actually not too bad. I was expecting it to be a little bit more difficult, but I took my time making sure the bolts were aligned, and I didn't tighten one before I tightened the other. Got them all in kind of hand tight before I tightened them all, which is kind of normal procedure for that sort of thing. But everything's tight now. It's on here. It's pretty good. You can see a tiny bit of flex on it compared to the engine, but for the most part it is on there pretty well solid. And yeah, that's pretty well it as far as mounting it goes. Some of the ones in the back were a little bit funny. You had to get like those spacers aligned before you put the bolt through, and kind of had to have your hand under there to get it. There really isn't a whole lot of room back there, nor could you fit a camera back there to show you what I exactly mean, but the bottom one is the kind of the culprit of that. The one, it actually was a 17mm head bolt, and that one, another thing I did was, you'll notice here there's a 10mm bolt that holds this coolant line. You can remove it, and kind of gives you a bit more room, as you can see, to play with that bottom bolt and get a ratchet in there, because otherwise you might be fighting with it. So this is on. Let's see which way the belt is going to be routed, and maybe we can get the belt on here. So I have a number of belts that the guy included with it, one of them being one of these green belts. I have a Gatorback belt, the original Procharger belt. So I'm going to try this one. Apparently people have luck with this one. This is the routing that we're going to be attempting right now. So we have our tensioner, and there is actually a 3-position pulley at the top, so it's saying there's 3 locations to mount it. I'm gonna try it in whatever position it seems to be in right now, and if we have issues, of course we would move it, but let's go ahead and throw this on. This is the routing around the supercharger, of course, over top of the tensioner, under this pulley, around what's the water pump, another idler, crank pulley, another idler. I think that one's the AC. Yeah, the AC. And then we're gonna go across, and I don't have a power steering pump, so I'm assuming it's just gonna go around that way. I think, let's see if there's one other diagram. Nope, they don't have a diagram. They just indicate that this is where your power steering pump would be, but I don't have one because my 14 and 13 and up have electric power steering, so it's not there. So let's go ahead, throw the belt on this way, and we'll continue. So the belt is routed. I thought I had this recording, but I guess I didn't. This is the orientation you're gonna go. So again, around the supercharger, under this idler where there's 3 positions where it's gonna be pushing down. And then it goes around this steel one that we put on in another video, around the alternator. And it goes down all the way to the bottom, around the air conditioning, our AC compressor, over top of that little idler, around the crank pulley, around this idler, around the water pump, and it goes up to here, and there's this idler that has grooves, and eventually it's going to be pressed up against there. You can see there's a bit of tension on it. There's quite a bit of tension on it to begin with. I have the tensioner completely loose right now, and you still have to really get this over top. It's not like it just falls into place like it would on a typical setup. You actually have to press this over. This was the last one I put on, and I found this was the easiest one since it was rounded. I got everything around, and then I had to slide it over top of this and work it away around this rounded pulley. So that was my technique. And now we can go ahead and put some tension on this. So this is the biggest debate of them all on the Procharger. Specifically, this kit is how much tension to put on this. I'm gonna probably do some follow-up videos, but for now I'm just gonna apply the tension that it says in the manual. And how you do that is you make sure this bolt is loose, because this is what locks everything in place. Right now you can see it's loose, but you want this loose, and then you're gonna see this nut down here. You can probably just see it. I'll get the camera in there in a second, but there's a tensioner, which I think you can probably see down there, and we're gonna loosen that bolt, and you can see as you tighten it, this falls down. As I loosen this bolt, you're gonna see the tensioner moving up and down if I tighten it. So you're gonna actually loosen the tension or bolt to apply pressure. So you can see as I loosen, it starts to push it up. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get some tension on there, and there's some marks on here. We'll follow those and continue. Okay, so there's a few things, and again, I'm gonna make a subsequent video on this. This bolt has to be loose. This is the one that you're using to do the tension. And on the back side, if I can get my camera in here, see this bolt? Hopefully you guys can see it. See the bolt that's right here? Hopefully you guys can see it. This bolt on the back, and again, I'll make better videos on this, has to be loose before you start moving things. And then you have to look underneath, and hopefully you guys can see this, but there's tensioner marks here. You have to line it with the first one. So there's marks on the bottom for whatever silly reason that you have to line up so that it looks like this. So you have to line up the marks with the first one. So that's where we're at right now. So I can go ahead and lock all that in place. I'm guessing we're not gonna have full boost because a lot of people have complained that you don't get full boost and you have to play with the belt and over tighten it and all that kind of stuff, but let's at least get it running for now. So I'm putting it where the book says we should put it, and then we'll mess with it later and do more videos on it, of course. So that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have that bell notification turned on too, so that you guys get all the latest updates and you guys are informed of that video when it gets uploaded. Again, thanks so much for your support. We're also gonna be doing some stuff on Instagram too, so if you guys are Instagram or on Instagram, check out there too, because I post some stuff there before I have a chance to edit it to put it on YouTube. So stuff hits there a little bit sooner than it does on YouTube, but wherever you guys want to follow along is cool with me. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.